You can see the coaching of how one has to behave, the codification of how a world leader behaves in public, and the triple, double speak that these strategic plans that come out of the G7 every year, you think, what does this mean?
What is that?
I don't know.
The giant brain.
Guy, Evan, and Galen, what was the mindset behind satire versus drama in tackling what would be an otherwise weighty subject?
Wow. I don't know if satire interested us very much. Did it?
We've been told we made one, but that was by accident. I think we thought we were making, you didn't even know we were making a movie that would be funny, that anyone would find funny, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a matter of just having a story to tell and let it, I liked the way the words lifted off the page and stayed airborne and floated around in a kind of a charming way, and I just felt that if everybody just delivered their lines with a straight face, it would just be whatever it would be. So satire was never really, we didn't really have a political agenda.
I mean, the subject matter just makes it
Right.
satire.
Yeah,
by
the G7,
definition.
so by definition is satire. But we
I guess
kind
it's
of
tautologically a
tried to zig and zag away
Yeah.
from satire as much as we could, because satire didn't really interest us as much as like soap operas and B horror movies.
But you got me. Okay, I confess, it's a satire.
Canada has produced so many funny people. How would you describe the Canadian sense of humor?
Dry? I don't know. I'm thinking now of Jim Carrey and Dan Aykroyd and,
People funnier than us.
Yeah,
I mean, for us, it's just like there's a lot of self-loathing. I think like the idea for us of writing a movie and making the Canadian Prime Minister into something like an action hero, something like that, was not done entirely sincerely, I wouldn't say. Or was
Not
it?
entirely.
Not entirely, but partially. We're dreamers, so imagining Canada as some kind of leader of the other nations was at least entertaining to us.
Yeah, like maybe we're all children of film or whatever. I think of the world often through film mythology, and I just thought it would be fun that things are just a little more real when they're committed to film. And so the idea of presenting our Canadian Prime Minister in this way just made it a little more real, even though it exists in a parallel reality with the real reality. But it's just a way I wanted the country to be perceived, and in my head it officially now is perceived that way.
Kate, as the great dramatic actress of your generation, do you get sent comedic scripts often?
People ask me that question. Yeah, I mean, I think in a strange way, everything is funny. We are all absurd in some way, and we all think we're the heroes and the tragedians of our own stories. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, you make decisions about what you can be involved in based on a lot of things that don't have to necessarily do with choice. Sometimes it's to do with whether it fits in with your kids' holidays. So there's been some funny things that I haven't been able to do.
All right.
But yes, I wanted to be in the forest at night for 8 weeks in Budapest, and my kids were really happy about that. So I thought, yeah. No, but I mean, this was a laugh out loud script, but it was also confounding and bewildering and deeply distressing. And obviously I knew the work that these three guys had done together, and I knew Roy's work, and the ensemble was so eclectic and weird and wonderful. It was just an impossible thing to turn down. So yeah, it's funny and weird, but all of that stuff, you can read the funniest script in the world, but then it's who's looking down the lens and who's editing it, because a lot of that stuff is in the way it's put together. And these guys put their films together in such a particular way. And I think that's why people ask a lot of questions about the tone of Rumours, because it sort of is its own tone. And I think we so easily try and say, that's a comedy, that's a drama, that's a satire. And I feel like this is a mashup of all of these things.
Did you or Roy, in preparation for this film, talk to any G7 leaders? Say
All of them. All of them. And in fact, they were on set all the time. Yeah.
Consultants.
That was a question for me.
Did we talk
If we talked?
to the G7 leaders?
No, we saw these guys sent us some video of different G7. I find it was important for the beginning of the movie, so it looks like really it's credible, so that when the movie takes off, then it makes a bigger leap.
But the thing about that footage is it's so incredible. I mean, the theatre of it, the bad theatre of these cultural events that they go through, and the vagina or whatever it is that, the way that they speak, you can see the coaching of how one has to behave, the codification of how a world leader behaves in public, and the double speak that these strategic plans that come out of the G7 every year, you think, what does this mean? And I think somewhere in the actual tone of the G7 lies the absurd tone of this film. So all that footage was literally like, can we make something as funny as this?
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah, we got hooked on actual G7 footage, just the ritualistic choreography of it. And I don't know, we're delighted in it. And I guess it was a matter, you can almost never hear the dialogue of these things because the camera's so far
You're not
away.
allowed to.
No, but, and they may not even have dialogue. They might just be flapping their gums without any words really coming out at each other. But I guess the aim of the film was probably to capture in dialogue what these things look like, what these people might actually be saying to each other.
And I think partly what was interesting from the footage is how monitored they all are. I mean, we think we're scrutinized by the media, but they're constantly followed around by cameras. So they're very aware that their body language and who they're speaking to is going to be read as being something. There's going to be a photograph taken. They're constantly aware of their external image. And what happens in this movie is they become unmoored from that. And who are they without the observers? Who are they without mobile phone reception? Who are they without their aides? And I think that's really fascinating and ridiculous.
And without their aides or entourages and iPhones, it becomes this very interesting dynamic. Do you think that the actual G7 world leaders would do well with sort of being stripped of their entourages and iPhones and devices and get in a room to talk about the fact that the world's on fire?
Would they benefit by spending time with masturbatory bog monsters? Would they?
I think we all would.
Possibly. I mean, that's a team-building exercise
Exactly,
that I'd
yeah.
like to see.
I think they do about the same as the characters in the movie.
Yeah, I
do,
think it's
you
pretty
know.
accurate representation
Yeah.
of exactly what would happen.
It's a fever dream,
Yes.
What was the wildest scene of all the scenes in the film for the two of you to film?
Wildest?
Wildest.
Well, from my point of view, for me, it was one of the most demanding things I've done in my career. I never told these guys because it was the ending, the monologue, which we shot, I think, the fourth day of shooting.
Yeah.
And I knew that Kate and Denis and Charles would all be listening to this monologue.
Judging, thinking
And,
we could have done
and it
that
was the
so
end of
much
the movie,
better.
and English is not my language. And just it took me a month just to learn it, to be able to say it rhythmically, interestingly. Anyway, so it was for me. It was a big dive. That's memorable for me, that moment
You seem so calm and cool and collected
when I did it.
when you did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's called.
That's acting. Yeah. Oh, that's what that
I'll
was.
have to try it sometime.
I mean the situation out, but to have at the middle of the monologue come for how do you say that when the director gives you a direction, and the direction
Annoying.
We
was,
wouldn't know.
says-
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
No, you don't, but in the script there are, and it was he says it as his life depends on it. So that's where I had to go. So, yeah, that was memorable for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that scene.
Kate?
I think when the brain catches on fire, and when we're all trying to work out what language Alicia Vikander's what language she's speaking, is quite great around the campfire. But the boiling brain or the kind of the fluid leaking bog monster was, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And also seeing the circle of bog monsters and thinking that is ancient and sexual, and I could not even find language to describe what they were doing. Those extras dressed up as bog monsters, that was
Powerful.
that was
Yeah, that was
powerful.
quite powerful. We were all moved and blessed.
To be there.
I wept.
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you for coming to the Variety Studio
Thank
to
you.
Thank you.
discuss
Thank you for having us.
Rumours.